Do you guys remember Amphibia? You know, the silly little show about a girl who got trapped in a frog world, becomes best friends with a frog boy and joins his family. Then below the fun, silly tone lies the serious, emotional story that can bring people to tears. So yeah, I know I sort of strayed away from Amphibia for the past couple months, and only referenced it with clips and the background music I've been using in the past 8 videos or so. Also, I'm pretty sure that now a sizable portion of the people subscribed to this channel probably don't know what Amphibia is or don't care about it. Hence why I made this semi-sarcastic introduction. But despite expanding into new niches like Pixar, which I have tons of videos planned for, I clearly haven't stopped thinking about this show in the background. One of the questions I've been thinking about for a while was, what Amphibia episode would I show to someone who has never seen the show before? Now, I assume most of you will answer with either one of the most beloved episodes of the series, like Reunion, All In, The Hardest Thing, or True Colors. I will agree with you that they are some of the best episodes of the show, but I wouldn't show them to anyone who hasn't seen Amphibia because they are massive spoilers to the show itself. Also, as much as I like these episodes, I wouldn't say they represent Amphibia that well in its most general form. The truth is that the vast majority of the show consists of Anne, Sprig, and oftentimes Hop Pop and Polly having an adventure together where they have fun, silly hijinks until they go wrong. By the end of most of these episodes, the characters solve the problem and learn a valuable moral that the audience can absorb. Then of course, a typical Amphibia episode has well-timed jokes and memorable moments that can stick around in people's heads. The episode I would show to someone who has never seen Amphibia before is the one that illustrates what you normally see in the show at its best. In other words, I would show them the perfect Amphibia episode. So with this in mind, I would immediately cross out the season finales as candidates for the perfect Amphibia episode just for being too spoilery, and again, they kind of misrepresent what the show actually consists of. The perfect Amphibia episode, ironically enough, is going to be one of the filler episodes, even though they are arguably more important than the story relevant episodes. There are lots of non-plot related episodes I can choose for this title, and to be honest, there are so many of them that I like so much that I actually couldn't really pick one for this video. So instead, I actually picked 3 episodes that I would say fit the description of perfect Amphibia episode, and then we'll just try to narrow it down from there. One of these episodes, I could argue, is Battle of the Bands. You can throw in The Dinner, which is the episode that came before it, but I'm focusing on Battle of the Bands in particular because I don't think it requires understanding of the show's overarching plot to enjoy. Like most of the episodes in Amphibia, this one is rather lighthearted and silly, but what makes this episode and The Dinner special is they are pretty much the only episodes where Anne, Sasha, and Marcy are together and are not fighting in a near-death situation. Mostly.
But beware, their stingers cause paralysis.
In fact, Battle of the Bands arguably has the lowest stakes out of any Amphibia episode, especially for season 2, but that fact is the reason why this episode is really good in my opinion. Since there aren't any serious stakes here, the episodes really focus on the characters and the dynamic between them. Even without watching the previous episodes leading up to it, you can tell there is a history between Anne and Sasha causing them to have a conflict. Also, the way their conflict is resolved is quite wholesome, especially given that it was in the middle of one of the show's greatest soundtracks. By the way, did you know this song was originally made as a pitch for the opening theme song of the show? With that in mind, it actually makes sense on why the lyrics of the song are the way they are. This song encapsulates everything that Anne has experienced and learned from her time in Amphibia, and represents it all in an upbeat, catchy way, which is exactly what an Amphibia episode should do. As much as I do like this episode, however, the one glaring element that is missing from it is the Planters' role. They were definitely present in this episode, but they did not play a significant role here, which is key given that Amphibia is arguably the Planters' story as much as Anne's story. So while Battle of the Bands does a really good job showing how good Amphibia is in its most lighthearted form, similar to the season finales, it doesn't actually represent what most of the episodes are actually like. While the episode can be the perfect Amphibia episode for some, there are a couple episodes that I think fit the title better. One of these is Sprig's Birthday. This episode right here has the standard silly formula for a typical Amphibia episode. Anne and Sprig decide to have a fun adventure, with Anne in particular pushing Sprig into new risky situations. Unfortunately for them, they bit off more than they can chew, and they had to find a way out of the near-death situation. Towards the end, Anne learns a valuable lesson about friendship and gets reassurance from Sprig that she is indeed his best friend. In addition to the standard plot, we also see a lot of the great bits of humor and references that you would expect from a typical Amphibia episode, except arguably better in my experience. What makes this episode special is that it's the best example of how Anne and Sprig's friendship is healthy compared to the Calamity Trio. After 3 seasons worth of character development, we see how much Anne cares for Sprig, and she still shows areas where she needs to grow. So it's not only a great episode to see how far Anne has come, but it also acts as a decent introduction to anyone who is not aware of how the friendship between these two work. Also, admittedly, I am rather biased towards this episode because I just like how it shows Anne and Sprig just having fun in what is effectively my home turf, which is SoCal. But sadly, that is arguably its biggest flaw. The fact that this episode takes place on Earth instead of Amphibia is kind of a major disqualifier for it to get this title. For one, it's a major spoiler of what happens to Anne and the Planters. Secondly, the show is called Amphibia, and yet Sprig's birthday takes place on Earth. Again, like Battle of the Bands, it's kind of a misrepresentation of what Amphibia is because we don't really see the main characters in the show's title setting. So as much as I really love this episode, and even though this episode represents the main characters and their dynamics more, I can't give it the title of perfect episode. So what does that leave us? Again, we need an episode that is about Anne and the Planters, or at the very least, about Anne and Sprig primarily. It has to show them in their best forms with the best interactions. The episode has to include excellent jokes and throw in a few references here and there. Finally, the episode has to include something special that makes it significant to the story, but not necessarily a spoiler. Well, that leaves us with one episode left, Hopping Mall. So on the surface, this episode has everything that we want from the perfect Amphibia episode. Anne and Sprig are the main characters? Check. Hop Hop and Polly are present, doing their own shenanigans that fit their character? Check. Lots of funny jokes and references that only nerds like me will understand? Check. On top of that, this episode has some bonuses. The antagonist was pretty unlikable and disrespectful towards Anne, but as the episode progresses, especially towards the end, we get a much better understanding of her. The episode shows how she's not actually that bad. If anything, she's actually a pretty nice person, which is a common theme for many of the major antagonists of Amphibia. But then there's the cherry on top of this episode. Once Anne and Sprig reconcile with their competition, and Hop Hop and Polly are done with their own small adventures, the main plot of the story ends. But plot twist, there's still about 2 minutes left of runtime left in this episode. So what does Hopping Mall show? 2 minutes of emotional sibling bonding between these two goofballs of characters.
Right now, I would give anything just to hear her singing.
Can you miss someone you never actually knew? That's silly. I mean, of course you can't.
This scene alone really sets the episode apart from every episode, including the season finales. The season finales are a culmination of how far the plot of Amphibia has come, but Hopping Mall, this scene specifically, is the culmination of how far Anne and Sprig's friendship has come. For them to just open up and have a heart-to-heart moment is the perfect way to show that they have grown comfortable to show their underlying feelings. Now sure, this scene will hit brain-rotted Amphibia fans harder than the typical viewer, especially first-time viewers, but I'd bet that even first-time viewers would feel at least a little bit emotional. I mean, who doesn't get emotional over hearing people talking about how much they miss their mothers? The vast majority of people should feel at least sadness from a scene like this. Also, the great thing about this scene, and this episode as a whole, is there are no major spoilers to Amphibia's overarching plot. It is purely a character-driven episode designed to get viewers to care about these characters. So given how this episode has pretty much fit my arbitrary criteria needed, I would say that Hopping Mall is indeed the perfect Amphibia episode. Now just to reiterate, it's not necessarily the best nor my favorite episode of the show. That title still goes to All In. But if I had to show one Amphibia episode to someone who has not seen the show yet, but wants to see if it is for them, then this is the perfect episode to show them. But of course, these are just my thoughts on what makes the perfect Amphibia episode. If you think a different episode deserves that title, let me know what it is down in the comments below, and please give this video a like, and subscribe for more content like this. With all that said, thank you all for watching this video. I hope you all have a great day. See you in the next one.